That the Chinese Communist regime has stepped back, intimidated by historic protests demanding freedom, signifies a crack in China's COVID wall. Just as the Berlin Wall one day began to crack and crumble, China's COVID wall too is slowly beginning to crumble. Although the regime will never apologize, it has found a way to save face after the great defeat that threatens its stability. And while the Chinese Communist Party tolerates certain protests, which is seen as kind of an outlet for the demonstrators, on this occasion it had to make certain concessions in order to survive. As the world returned to life, exercising its most basic freedoms, Chinese citizens watched with heavy hearts from behind the invisible and almost impenetrable COVID wall. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Chinese Communist Party has seen a unique opportunity for absolute control, and the zero-COVID policy has been the perfect tool. It's clear that zero-COVID is now primarily about politics, power, and mass surveillance, not health. Its rigid enforcement has become a gauge of loyalty to the president. Defeating the virus has become central to the cult of Xi. This application of the incoherent and extreme measures of zero-COVID worked as sort of a self-destruct mechanism for the CCP. These policies ruined the Chinese economy, sowed distrust in foreign business investment, and even Apple, a longtime friend of the CCP, almost abandoned it. But the great damage the Chinese regime did to itself was to awaken the people's desire for freedom. And as if waking up from a nightmare, the Chinese people have raised their voices in protest, and the worst thing that they could have done to the CCP was to organize themselves to protest for freedom. Andrew Nathan from Columbia University said, "Zero-COVID was supposed to demonstrate the superiority of the Chinese model, but it ended up demonstrating the risk that when authoritarian regimes make mistakes, those mistakes can be colossal." Other evidence of its failure was the colossal spending by the CCP on internal security, allocating some $230 billion last year for the blockade industrial complex. This agency performed all sorts of cruel functions, from forcing street COVID tests to spraying disinfectant in cities and disinfecting library books right on their shelves. Thus, the CCP has spent more on internal security than on national defense. With a clearer vision, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, expressed his views on the issue. This zero-COVID policy is draconian, violates people's freedoms, and is completely unscientific, and the people of China are right to be able to speak out and protest what the Chinese Communist Party is doing. We need these draconian COVID policies to go to the ash heap of history where they belong. Will China's COVID wall become a pile of ashes? The Chinese people have already started to wake up and challenge the wall imposed on them by the CCP for decades. It is only a matter of time before the Chinese regime's wall turns to ashes.